They poisoned my lake to stop me from fishing. Let that sink in. My lake, the one I'd been taking care of for years, turned into a graveyard of floating fish and toxic blue streaks. The stench of chemicals hit me before I even saw the water, sharp and acrid, like someone had dumped a bucket of industrial cleaner into the heart of our neighborhood. But the sickest part, the very water they poisoned, is what flows into every faucet in this community, including theirs. My name's Logan Reed. I'm 40, been a fishing guide and freshwater conservation specialist for most of my life. I've waded into rivers at dawn, taught kids to catch their first bass, fought for clean water rights when no one else would. And for the last 3 years, I thought I'd found peace here in this HOA-run little slice of suburbia with a pond that reminded me of my childhood. My dad used to say, "When the fish die, son, something is deeply wrong." His words came back to me as I stared at those silver bodies glinting in the morning light. Something was very, very wrong. I didn't have to wait long for a clue. Taped to my front door was a bright white envelope with the HOA logo stamped across the top. Violation notice. $150 for causing environmental damage. I read it twice. Then again because it made absolutely no sense. My fishing caused environmental damage. I practice catch and release. I pick up other people's trash. I respect the water more than anyone here. But then I saw the date. Dated the day before the fish kill. How do you fine someone for damage that hasn't even happened yet, unless you already knew it was coming, unless you were behind it? And right on cue, I heard heels clicking across the pavement. Gloria Whitmore, our HOA president. 52, always dressed like she's selling million-dollar houses at 8 in the morning and carrying that leather portfolio like a weapon. She gave me this tight smile and said, "Maybe if you didn't spend all day treating our pond like your personal fishing hole, our water wouldn't look like a disaster zone." I pointed to the floating fish to the streaks of chemical blue. "Gloria, I've been doing conservation work for 15 years. I didn't do this. Catch and release doesn't kill dozens of bass overnight." She just shrugged like science was irrelevant, like my expertise was nothing. "All I know," she said, "is we never had problems before you started fishing here. But don't worry, this pond won't be our concern much longer. Big changes are coming to improve our property values." The way she said it sent a chill down my spine. Property values. Improvements. I looked around and noticed fresh soil near the shoreline, pipes buried where no pipes used to be. Something was happening here, something she didn't want me to see. 2 days later, Gloria called an emergency HOA meeting with less than 24 hours' notice, already a violation of our bylaws. I went anyway. The room was thick with tension. About 30 residents whispering, staring at me like I was some criminal. They even tried to make me sit in the back away from the main discussion while Gloria stood at the podium in her navy blue power suit, pearls flashing under the fluorescent lights. She didn't waste a second. "We're here tonight because of ongoing environmental damage to our shared water resources," she announced, and every head in the room turned to me. Then she took it a step further. She accused me of sabotaging the pond myself to cover up the damage caused by my fishing. I swear my stomach dropped right through the floor. Poisoning. The very water I'd spent years protecting. She even held up a contract asking me to sign a pledge never to fish there again. But the fine print. It was about more than fishing. It was about me giving up my right to object to future development opportunities. She was setting me up to be erased from the equation entirely. I stood, voice shaking, but steady enough. "You can't change usage rules without environmental studies and community votes. That's the law." Her smile turned razor sharp. "I'm the president. I decide what's best for our property values. Perhaps you should consider relocating." And then, in a whisper that carried farther than she intended, I heard her tell her assistant, "Make sure the development paperwork is ready by Friday. We need contaminated water documentation for the city permits." My blood went cold. She wasn't protecting the pond, she was destroying it on purpose for money. That's when Paul Harris, my neighbor and former HOA board member, stepped up. He was one of the few who dared challenge Gloria. He whispered to me later at City Hall, showing me water infrastructure maps. His finger traced a blue line straight from our pond into the neighborhood treatment plant. Logan, every family here, including Gloria's, drinks this water. The horror sank in. She was so blinded by greed she was willing to poison her own community, her own kids, just to get a development deal pushed through. I broke into the HOA office one night desperate for proof. Found development permits emails, even call logs to water treatment companies. She'd been planning this for months. But the next morning, a sheriff's deputy was at my door. Gloria had filed a harassment lawsuit against me. The story was turned upside down. I was suddenly the stalker, the saboteur, the crazy fishing guy. Neighbors stopped waving. Parents pulled their kids away from me. Even my own kitchen tap started producing water with a metallic taste, making me gag. I sat by the poisoned pond one night watching the oily streaks shimmer under the moon, and I asked myself if I was losing my mind. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe I should just pack up, move somewhere else, start over. For the first time, I truly considered giving up. But then Paul showed up at my door with an envelope. Inside, emails. Real, damning emails. Gloria had taken $50,000 from Lakeside Development to manufacture evidence of contamination. Even instructions for which chemicals to use to create the most dramatic fish kill. It wasn't paranoia. It was truth. And it was worse than I imagined. That was the moment I decided I wasn't backing down. With Paul's help, and my friend Jake, a lawyer and water safety expert, we planned a public showdown. A community picnic at the pond complete with certified water testing in front of everyone. No more secret meetings, no more lies behind closed doors. Just cold, hard science. Saturday morning, families came with lawn chairs and picnic baskets. Kids laughed, chasing each other, while adults murmured nervously. Jake's team unloaded professional analyzers, laptops, sample kits. But Gloria was ready too. She arrived in crisp white sunglasses, gleaming, flanked by independent consultants. She announced loudly that my tests were biased, that I'd been trespassing and stealing documents, painting me as the villain again. As Jake set up, Gloria's people stalled us with fake certification checks, waving badges that looked official but weren't. Every minute that ticked by, I felt my credibility slipping. Neighbors eyed me with suspicion, and Gloria smirked from the sidelines, confident she still controlled the story. Finally, Jake's analyzer beeped with results. Gloria's consultant rushed to speak first. Our independent analysis confirms contamination, but likely caused by irresponsible fishing practices. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. My throat went dry. Then Jake stepped forward, voice steady, backed by years of experience. Copper sulfate levels are 15 times above EPA safety standards. Lead and mercury levels are dangerously high. This is not natural. This is deliberate. Gasps. Parents grabbed their children, fear etched on every face. Mrs. Chen, whose daughter had been sick all week, shouted through tears, "My kids have been drinking this water every day." The crowd erupted in panic and rage. And then Paul delivered the knockout. He held up the printed emails. Gloria took $50,000 from developers to poison our water, to stage this contamination. The papers rustled in his hands as neighbors surged forward, phones out, documenting every word. Gloria tried to deny it, her voice cracking. "This is all a setup. Logan planted this." But the tide had turned. A paralegal in the crowd confirmed the emails were authentic, legally damning. People started shouting for her resignation for the police. That's when the EPA rolled in black SUVs, agents flashing badges. The whole gathering fell silent. One of them, Agent Martinez, laid it out flat. Deliberate contamination of a municipal water supply is a federal crime punishable by prison time and massive fines. Gloria's face drained of color. And then, maybe out of desperation, maybe out of sheer madness, she staggered to the fountain connected to our water line. "You're all overreacting," she shouted, cupping water in her hands and gulping it down. "See, it's fine." We all watched in stunned horror as she drank the same poison she'd poured into our lives. Within minutes, her face twisted, her skin flushed sickly. She doubled over, vomiting, collapsing to the ground as paramedics rushed in. Parents who'd spent weeks nursing sick kids just stared stone cold. One mother whispered, "Now you know how my child felt." And I didn't move. I didn't stop her. Because in that moment, watching her choke on her own lies, I realized karma sometimes delivers justice more perfectly than any courtroom ever could. That was the end of Gloria Whitmore. Truth always floats to the surface.